Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Zen Honeycutt, and I am the founding executive director of Moms Across America. This is Monday night, and it's February 24th already. And I'm going to ask people to mute if that's okay. Thank you. While we're talking, and if you want to ask a question, please do raise your hand or put something in the chat box. And our mission at Moms Across America is to educate and empower mothers and others with actions and solutions to create healthy communities. And that means any type of issue that affects our health or our children's health or our pets or our environment, right? We will address that as best we can. We'll speak up about it. We'll bring in experts. We'll organize as best we can. And it's been a major new thing for us over the past couple of weeks to be diving in to 4 and 5G. And why I say 4/5G is because it's not just 5G, it rides on 4G. And so this is not just entirely new technology like they say it is dependent on 4G. And that means that these 4G poles, not poles, but these small cell wireless telecommunications facilities, which people are calling SWTFs, or just WTFs, are going to be much closer and are starting to be much closer to our homes than has previously been deemed necessary, because the 5G waves are shorter, and therefore they claim, the poles need to be closer together in order to effectively do the job of giving you frequencies in which you could download massive amounts of data, like for instance, have a virtual reality facility in your home, is what this is slated to do. So not many people I know need to do that. So I don't see that 5G is necessary, nor am I interested in the health consequences that come from it. There's many different issues around it. I'm going to ask if Monica is online. She was going to speak in the first few minutes. Monica, are you here?
Yes, hi, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you okay. And I don't think, you don't have your video on, so I'm just going to keep the spotlight video on me for now because we don't want to look at just a blank screen. But Monica, do you want to say a little bit about yourself and share what's going on in Costa Mesa?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Dragisi. I'm a longtime resident of Costa Mesa, and I became involved in the 5G fight about 7 months ago. By way of background, I am a business executive. I have an MBA degree, and also I'm a mom to 2 young kids, 8 and 6. So when I received the notice in the mail that there was going to be a small wireless facility, is how they called it, being erected 500 feet away from where we live, I got pretty activated and concerned. Over the next couple of months, we organized a grassroots movement that basically has grown in size. We're up to almost 900, maybe even more signatures on our Change.org petition. And I learned that this issue is very complex, multifaceted, and we're concerning by the minute. So there are health concerns, like Zen has stated. There are property value concerns. There are aesthetic concerns. This basically touches it all. And where we are right now in Costa Mesa is we have gotten some relief from our city council, but it's not anywhere near what other cities are doing. As of now, these installations will be as close as 35 feet away from homes, 50 feet away from schools, and really very limited control in terms of how they're going to be monitored, et cetera. What I want to share with you today is you're going to hear, if you choose to get involved in this fight, over and over again, that statements like our hands are tied. The federal government is mandating us to do this. We really cannot control much around the space. And I want to tell you not to take that as an approach, not to take that as an answer. There are plenty of other cities, and I'm sure Zen can share with you examples that I put together that other activists are actively promoting. around what can be done, and they've been successful. So I think that there are definitely ways in which we can increase setbacks, in which we can increase oversight, ask for master planning, et cetera. So I'm happy to answer any other questions, but that's basically my summary of where we are right now.
Does anybody have any questions before I have a comment about the Costa Mesa meeting, but does anybody have any questions first? You can put it in the chat box or raise your hand and I will unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. I have a question for you, Monica. How long have you been working on this with your city?
Since the end of May. So it's been a very long, protracted fight, and it ebbs and flows. It really depends on the particular city's capacity to and attention to deal with this particular topic. We've had peaks, we've had valleys, but yeah, it's been actually more than 6 months. End of May.
Yeah.
And when you first found out about it, was there any other group that was working on this in your city, or
No, there wasn't. I kind of activated everyone. I started the petition. I started really getting educated about the process and what can and cannot be done. I started talking to the planning commission, and then lobbying city council. But overall, there wasn't much infrastructure in place. That has dramatically changed. There are many groups, and Zen has been wonderful in terms of getting the awareness out to your group and partnering with other organizations. I'm sure she's going to cover that. But there is infrastructure in place. I think that as cities are getting hit with these notices and with the expedited wireless rollout, people are waking up and people are really fighting it. There is a concerted industry push right now to really promote 5G, and they wouldn't do that unless our efforts to stop it or at least control it weren't working. As an example, Verizon has a website that they just rolled out, lets5g.com, full of misinformation and promoting the wonderful things that 5G can do. Of course, not mentioning all of the bad things that it can do, but none of you have to start from scratch. There are resources out there, there's websites, there's lots of people who are actively involved in this, so they're out there. The information is out there.
Yeah, and so could you name a few of the groups that you recommend?
Well, it depends on when you're starting, and I'm sorry about the background noise. I stepped away from a work conference to take this call. ehtrust.org is a wonderful repository of information around 5G, wireless, dangerous to the community. They have so much information on it, kind of a catalog of the history of what's happened, studies on health, how the firefighters have opposed it since 2004, I believe, because of health concerns, etc. So that's a good website. Scientists for Wired Tech is another one. I think that's Dr. Joel Moskowitz, who heads up the School of Public Health of UC Berkeley. There's a lot of information there. There are Facebook groups that I'm sure Zen can share. Then I'm happy to put together a summary for you in an email if you want to distribute it.
Yeah, great. I just wanted you to mention
a couple of other ones.
Yeah, I just wanted you to mention a few while we're on, because some people might want to take notes right now. Yeah, I'm showing a few. Yeah, this is 5G crisis, and this is scientists wired for tech. Oh, this guy I'm watching this video right now. The 5G Trojan horse guy. He's a journalist, Derek Braz, that's working on this. There's scientists for wired technology, and then ehtrust. Sorry, I have to turn off my phone. So there's a lot of websites out there, and you can get started. Somebody asked, what is the first thing that you did? Monica?
Yeah.
What is the first thing that you did when you found out about this?
I started a petition because that's going to activate people who are naturally inclined to get involved, and started posting on Facebook, Nextdoor, any of specific sites that the city uses, the communication channels. That's the first thing I did. I think the main thing that you want to do is get people aware and involved. The more people show up at meetings, the more people write emails, the more people lobby city council, the more successful you're going to be. It basically is the game of numbers and public pressure.
Yeah, awesome. So great idea. There's petitions on, I think you sent me Los Altos was a good one, right?
Yeah, Los Altos is a good one.
Los Altos, ALTOS, Los Altos. I just did one for Keep Mission Viejo Beautiful, Safe and Beautiful, and that's on Stop 5G Mission Viejo. I changed the wording a little bit because my city is pretty unique in the sense that it doesn't have any utilities, well, not any, but most of our utilities are above ground. So when you drive around our city, you see no telephone poles. It's only trees and beautiful lamps that have bells on them with scrolls. And they had to fight really hard to get Edison to put up these special lamps just for our city. So I think that we have a good chance to keep future telecommunication utilities underground. I'm not going to call them facilities because facilities is an above ground thing. I'm going to call them telecommunication utilities and keep them below ground, and you eliminate a lot of problems that way. But Costa Mesa has a little bit more difficult situation with doing that because you have so much commercial there, right? Commercial areas. And they say that they need this 5G for commercial areas, don't they, Monica?
Oh yeah, and if you watch the Super Bowl, there was a lot of focus on 5G from Verizon in the ads that they promoted, and they tie it to everything from enabling first responders to do their jobs to basically things like virtual reality and just advances in medicine overall. So they're positioning it in a way that, you know, logically, why would you not want it? They're very good at what they do. But of course, they failed to mention everything that 5G does to you, to your property values, and potentially to your health.
Yes, absolutely. And there's an article I'm going to show right now, which shows that the International Firefighters Association actually declared a moratorium on the installation of 5G. It's actually all wireless facilities, all WTFs. And so that just goes to show us that if they don't want it, why should we want it? You know, and they are the ones that are most concerned with responsiveness and communication. Well, the reason why they don't want it is because they had headaches, confusion. They actually lost their direction. They had a lot of health issues, and they actually measured this. The woman, Susan Foster, that worked on this, worked really hard to show the health consequences of these facilities being, you know, either right on the building or right outside the building. So that's a very important talking point, don't you think, for when we're talking about this with our cities?
It is, but it's a double-edged sword, and I'll tell you why. The federal government has said via the FCC order that you can't comment on health, and somehow, you know, the regulation or legislation, I should say, that this is all based on was passed in 1996. It's called the Telecommunications Act. Since then, the FCC has passed these additional orders, many of them fairly recent, to accelerate the deployment of small cell facilities. Our city, and I think this is the case with other cities, from the get-go have told us in every single meeting, the city attorney has made a statement that the residents can talk about health impacts, but they are not allowed to take those into consideration. So the main angle that we've been pushing is property values, aesthetics, et cetera. Everybody knows that the main concern is health, but I think if you just lead with that, city council may not be able to take that into account, depending on how willing they are to listen to this topic, period. It's easy for them to shut down and say, well, we can't do anything about that. It's health and we can't take that into account. But there are city councils like Marin County, which is in the Bay Area, that are just more concerned about health in general. And they have taken on that legal risk, which is essentially being sued by the wireless carriers to protect the health of their citizens. So I just want to put that out there, because when you use the word health, a lot of cities kind of use that as an excuse and say, well, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yes, and you will probably hear that right away from your city when you bring this up. There have been arguments made that the Supreme Court ruling in T-Mobile versus San Francisco, however, which you can find on Scientists Wired for Tech, the website that we just had up there. If you click on blog and search and you put in the word compare, then you'll find a particular court case that did rule that aesthetics does include health and safety. And so there is a California ruling showing that we can consider health and safety under aesthetics. However, you may have lawyers that are, extra careful about protecting your city and say, no, that doesn't matter, that the FCC rule trumps that and you can't include health in consideration. But here's what I personally want to say about that. Health is the reason why your city council or your planning commissioners will get their butts in gear and find a way to keep this out of your cities. Health is the reason why, right? Secondary will be aesthetics. They don't want these big ugly poles going up all over their city. They really don't. It devalues property. They're just ugly. They're fire safety. They're fire hazards. They've actually started fires. The small cells, I don't know, blow up or something. And there's all kinds of privacy and security issues and all of that. So you want to make sure to avoid these as much as possible and to speak up no matter, what they say, but do be mindful when you're up there with your time and speaking that you need to give them the reasons that they can use as much as possible, right, to find a way around these federal laws, which were passed in 1996, saying that cities and towns cannot deny the service, cannot deny telecom companies the right to install these wireless telecom facilities. So anything else that you want to say about that while I look at some questions and see what people have to ask, Monica? Or do you have to go?
No, I think you captured it. I guess the only other thing, and you're probably going to bring this up again later, Zen, is the FCC is being sued on a bunch of fronts by various organizations. So I'm hopeful, as are many other folks, that this is going to address just the lack of oversight that has been displayed so far, and just the revolving door relationship that they have with the wireless companies. So there is change coming. I think we just need to take parallel paths at the local level at the same time.
Great. Yes. And Hillary asks, since you've been working on this since May 2019, does that mean that you've delayed progress? Can you tell, did you get it?
Yes, I did. Well, I didn't delay progress. There are these things called shot clocks, which is in the FCC order. Cities need to approve any new applications within 90 days, any modification to existing applications within 60 days. But carriers know that they're under a lot of pressure, so they've been granting what is called the tolling agreement, which essentially they don't need to do that, right, because the law is on their side, but is essentially saying we recognize that cities are working on ordinances and therefore we're willing to give you an extension. They've been doing that pretty consistently across the board.
So you can ask your city to ask for a tolling agreement with the carrier, which means a delay until you work out an update on your ordinance. Most of your ordinances will be like 20 years old, which are actually invalid because they don't include current technology. So you'll need to ask them to update the ordinance. So that's the first thing to do. One of the first things to do, besides get informed and get connected and start a Facebook group, either Stop 5G plus your city name or Citizens for Safe Technology plus your city name, whatever it is that you'd like. But keep in mind, when you say stop 5G, you really mean stop 4G/5G. It's like densified 4/5G, you know, to be technically accurate, but it's okay if you just say stop 5G. And then you want to email your city council and ask what, if you don't have a group, right, in your city, and if they're not already working on this, if you're like the one, right, and you can't find anybody else working on this, then you want to ask your city, what is our current ordinance for wireless telecommunications facilities? Don't ask them for 5G, because it's not worded like that. And you also want to ask them, can you give me the addresses of any current or planned wireless telecommunication facilities, you know, like planned that are planned in our city? I first asked, can you please tell me what are the addresses of 5G, you know, facilities going up in our city? And they said, we have none of those. We don't have any plans for 5G. So I was like, oh, well, that's great. But then somebody said, no, you have to ask for wireless telecommunication facilities, because they're not 5G yet. They're 4G first, and then they will upgrade them to 5G. So they won't give you the answer that you want unless you ask the right question, right? This was like, I have to share this side note. This was like when I wanted to give a home birth and I was told that they won't cover it for insurance, right? And when I asked a midwife, they said, oh, I said, will you cover home birth? They said, no. Midwife said, no, you have to ask, will you cover for the service of home birth? Because they won't cover the rent of your home for a home birth. And I'm like, well, of course not. I'm going to charge a rent for my home. And she said, so go back and ask them, will you cover the service of home birth? And they said, yes. So it's semantics. It's like totally, but they will try to get out of it if they can, right? So you've got to be very particular in your questions.
Hey, Zen?
Yes.
This weekend I had to drive to Madison and I was literally horrified, and I wish I need to print out a bunch of materials. I saw huge towers that had gone up since probably the last time I drove to Madison.
Mm-hmm.
And two of them, one was on a farm right next to the house. Huge. And it probably had 20 or 30 cells already mounted on it. Another one was near a restaurant. I was like, these people don't know. I want to stop at this farm and go, do you realize what's being beamed into your house right now?
Yeah, it's serious. It's happening all over the place. Health concerns can be banned from consideration because the 1996, Frankie asked, the 1996 Telecommunications Act did that. They said, they actually said that environmental issues or concerns cannot be considered in the approval or denial, right, or of an application. And so the telecommunication companies are attaching health onto environmental, which is actually incorrect. Environmental is like birds and bees and whether or not you're going to pollute the water, right, that type of thing. But they're including health into it, and that's actually not accurate. So there's a lot of reasons in which if a city were willing enough to be sued, there's legal standing for us to actually win some of these cases. It's just they have to be willing to be sued. So let me ask, somebody wants to ask, how did Palm Beach get an exemption about small cells?
Because I think Trump has, I mean, I don't know, I'm going to be the cynic here, because there's lots of rich people who live there who are concerned about this. I don't know. That's just Monica's answer.
Okay. Well, yeah, Marin Valley, like Mill Valley is in Marin County, one of the richest counties in the country. They got it out of their area as well.
And Brussels, which is the headquarters for the EU, also banned it. So it has to do with those people who are extremely rich and well connected.
Yeah, they don't want property values to drop, and they don't want to roast, from it affects your skin. So Hillary's saying, are they planning 4G with the short distance between facilities, or are they two different facilities being built, one for 4G and one for 5G? Right now it's for 4G, and then they will upgrade it to 5G. 5G needs to ride on 4G. 5G can't be by itself.
It's piggybacked.
Yes, piggybacked, yeah.
Did you guys know that each carrier is going to have like a cell tower every 2 to 10 homes? So Verizon, T-Mobile.
Yes, that's what they prefer. They don't have to do that. They could share the same pole, but they don't want to. So what I asked the city council when I went to Costa Mesa, just because I like to go to other people's city council meetings about this now, because I learned so much. I asked them, at what point do the rights of our residents and their health and their property values, you know, and our safety supersede the preferences of a corporation? When are our rights more important than these preferences of a corporation, right? We don't want these poles every 100 feet. Because are these 3 different companies, Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T. I think T-Mobile has merged with Sprint. That's why there's this town where Sprint did put up poles already, but they've merged with T-Mobile. So, or one of the companies anyway, they merged. So there's going to be at least 3 different carriers that want their own poles.
But there is, you can file with the American Disabilities Act. I'm trying to find out more information about that, but the American Disabilities Act trumps the FCC ruling. So if you get like a doctor's note and, you know, let's say you have a pacemaker or maybe metal implants or, you know, whatever, insomnia, autoimmune, whatever, you can, you know, maybe use that and say you cannot have a small tower near your home. You know, but the problem is, you know, you can try to do everything you can in your home to mitigate, you know, reduce your EMF exposure, but it's like, we can't live in our house and be hermits. You know, we have to go out to the grocery store, go to work, pick up our kids, you know, so it's like, yeah, it's great if you don't have it near your home, but like, it's not like you're not going to be out and about.
Yeah. Well, also, most people don't work out of their home. I do, but most other people don't. They work in an office, and if they just push these 5G tower, you know, facilities over to the commercial zones, that means everybody that's at work is going to be experiencing this microwave radiation all day long at work. I mean, I completely don't really understand the difference just between residential and work when people spend half their lives at work. It just doesn't make sense to me. The only thing that makes sense to me is fiber optics underground, but they don't want to do this because it costs more money. But they could. But here's the thing, fiber optics is safer, it's faster, it's more secure, it's more reliable, and it doesn't shut down when there's power outages.
And I think in the long run, it'll save money.
Yeah, in the long run, it'll save money. They just, right now, it's competition for the wireless telecommunications facilities. So they want to put theirs up more, and they want to eliminate fiber optics. So somebody asked, is there a place to report negative side effects from this microwave radiation or radio frequencies, as some people call them? Does anybody know? Is there a place to report negative side effects? Would it just be with the FCC?
Yeah, but that's not going to do us any good, right? Like, because the FCC, the whole premise of this, and it's one of the reasons why they're being sued, is that they have established through lots of research, according to them, and coordination with other agencies, safe limits and exposure time. So if any of the wireless facilities, if people complain about health effects and any of the wireless facilities are within their thresholds, I don't know how much recourse somebody would have. However, I do think it's a good idea to have a database of sorts, because there are people, somebody spoke up like a couple minutes before, there are people who are sensitive or will become electrosensitive from this, because we are going to be bombarded by this radiation. It's going to be everywhere, and that's the goal, to densify everywhere, including rural areas. They actually are setting up a separate $9 billion fund that is specifically designed to accelerate the rollout in agricultural communities. So not all, the cities don't get to have like a preferential status. They want to do it everywhere. So I do think it's a good idea to organize some kind of a database that's nationally managed, similar to the, for those of you who are familiar with it, the NVIC, right, the vaccine database, because eventually my prediction from what I've seen is, unfortunately, it's going to take all of the people who are going to be impacted in a negative way, this upswell of public outcry, to stop this, and to stop it not just by setbacks and aesthetics, which is the constraints that we're working under, but like literally stop it. stop it because we don't need it and it's harmful for us. And it's additive to all of the radiation that we currently have, which is also significant. It's 4G, 2G, 3G, they're not going to go away. This is on top of that, and it's going to be everywhere. So I do think I don't know of one. If there is, like, I think everybody should be aware of it, but now we should start catching it, tracking it.
Yeah, we should. Okay, so that's on the wish list of somebody to create a big secure database for like VARS, right? For vaccines, but for electromagnetic sensitivity. It's called EMS. It is a Americans with Disabilities Act recognized disability. So that's the other thing. Our city needs to accommodate people with this disability. And that's a requirement. They have to, they can't ignore it. So to me, that means that they can't install these anywhere, because somebody with this disability, they want to go to work, they want to go to restaurants, they want to go to movies. It's discriminating against them, these people with this disability, if they can't do that. So I just want to check, Monica, is there anything else you want to say? I think that we have our friend from Huntington Beach on. Are you still on? Or did you come on? You have to unmute yourself if you're here.
In regards to the database, I wonder if Deborah Davis, is that her name? She's a toxicologist. I wonder if she would do it, or an environmental health trust. I can reach out to some leaders that I know and ask.
Okay. Well, we don't, it doesn't look like our guest from Huntington Beach is on. She may have had trouble. Somebody called me from Huntington Beach. She may have been trouble getting on. So I'm sorry, but I'm just going to share what she had to say. Unless, Monica, do you know her? Do you want to share about it?
No, I think you're talking about Susie, and I forget her last name. And she has shown up to Costa Mesa meetings. Huntington Beach and Costa Mesa abut each other. We're neighbors. And she had actually a really terrible experience when one of these 5G towers was installed. I believe it was either next to her backyard or very close to her house. And
yeah,
she actually had it. Yeah, so not even what we're getting in Costa Mesa, right? It's more distance than what we would be getting if we're not successful. And she shared her experience, and it's horrible. But what I would like to say, and I have to drop off, I'm juggling this work conference. I'm happy to come on again if it would be helpful, or any of you can get in touch with me. I'm very passionate about this. Don't give up. This is a fight worth fighting. It's about our kids. It's about our families. It's about our lack of rights, and how all of this has been fast-tracked through the legal channels. And everyone needs to be aware. You're going to hear a lot of naysayers out there, people who want the driverless cars and who want to do VR, but they don't know the impact of what this is. So it can be done. Some cities are being successful. It's really about awareness, and it's a long fight, but it's worth fighting. So
yeah. And as long as you get your city council, when they do a reading, to make a change, then it has to go back to the first reading again. They have to do 2 readings, a first and a second, right, with no changes, in order for it to be enacted. And so the last reading that we went to, I just have to share this before you go, or maybe you have to leave, but at the last reading, when they were looking over the details, they added in the word daycares into schools, so it would be set back, the facilities would be set back 50 feet from schools. And they included the word daycares, which was very wonderful. But then they realized, there's daycares in residences too. And our residential setback was only 25 feet, which they upped to 35 feet because they realized that a pole could be 30 feet. And if it falls on a house, then you've got a fire happening, right? So they upped it to 35 feet. So they've got daycares in residential areas with only a setback of only 35 feet. But then you've got daycares in commercial areas that get a setback of 50 feet. And they were like, but they didn't want to address that. Then I was looking at the list of the different setbacks, and it said public art and historical buildings, a setback of 100 feet. So I was like, wait a second. I stood up, did the public outcry thing, right? Like it wasn't my turn to talk, but I said, excuse me, you're going to have a setback of 100 feet for public art, but only 35 feet for a 2-year-old. And they're like, well, where'd you see that? And I said, look, it's section E. and the faces on the city council were like, you know, but they approved it anyway, and said, we'll come back to, you know, we'll come back to this because because they made a change, it was the first reading. So then they'll come back again and they'll do the first reading, and maybe they'll make some changes before the first reading of the next, you know, the next one. So the process can be, you know, it can take a long time, but you want it to be delayed. You want changes, right? You want to push this off because, as Monica said earlier, and thank you very much, Monica, for being on. Are you going now? Okay, maybe she left. Okay. Anyway, so as she mentioned, there are lawsuits against the FCC. And one of them, we should have a ruling within about 5 or 6 months. So there's no reason why any city should be approving any applications right now before this lawsuit is ruled upon. Because what if they go ahead and approve some polls, and then the ruling says, oh no, they can't be, you know, 500 feet apart, they have to be 2,000 feet apart, or the poles have to be 100 feet high, not, you know, 50 feet high, or, you know, less than 50 feet, right? What if this ruling changes the placement or the operation or anything? So it's a really good thing right now to get them to delay any type of any approvals on applications. Okay, so I'm going to say a little bit more about Susie from Huntington Beach, because I don't think she explained it. Well, she maybe, I didn't say explain it well enough, but I want to explain it the way Susie did, and that was that a pole was placed 65 feet outside of her house, and she didn't know it was coming in. They don't notify you of this. They just start building, right? And what she and her husband noticed when they're on the sidewalks were those white marks for like something's going in here. Have you guys seen those? When they start to construct something, they put some white marks in as like, we're going to dig. And so they contacted the city hall and they said, what's going in there? And they said, oh, it's going to be a small cell, you know, facility or whatever. And they're like, what is that? And so they started to research it, and she realized what it was. And she's like, oh my gosh, my, you know, microwave radiation levels are going to increase. So she hired a professional to come out and measure in her house before the pole went up, or before it was turned on anyway. And the levels were 1,000 microwatts in her bedroom. And after the pole went up and was turned on, the small cell was turned on, the levels were 8,500 in her bedroom and 10,500 in her living room all the time. You can't turn this off. And so when she went to sleep, the side of her body that was facing the pole, she experienced her skin frying. And it'll say, you look up Wikipedia, it'll say heating of the skin, right? And can be cancerous, right? And so she went out and bought 3 sheets of aluminum mesh screening and slept under those sheets for 3 months while she begged her mayor to turn it off. And that is one thing that your local ordinance does have jurisdiction over. In the differences between the 1995 and 1996 Telecommunications Act, the word operation was taken out. So that means our local jurisdiction does have, our local municipalities do have jurisdiction over the operation, meaning they can turn off or on these poles. So yeah, and what I mean by that is that they're not preempted from regulating the operation, right? So they can turn off or on, and technically they could also say how much power comes out and how much doesn't. And not many people are looking at that aspect, but that is something to look at. I don't want them to go up at all, even with low levels, you know, of power, but that is something to take a look at. So anyway, she begged the mayor, and the mayor did turn off the pole. Now they haven't taken it down, and I don't know if they can, because the city doesn't have the jurisdiction to manage construction. So, you know, they may not be able to take it down. And the city manager did tell her that they are working on removing the other 22 poles in Huntington Beach. But here's the thing, why go through all this trouble of putting up these big ugly poles with, you know, that are radiating thousands of times more power than we need and than we want? Is anybody asking for this? Is anybody like, yeah, no, nobody's asking for this, right? Nobody has virtual reality in their home that like a huge giant facility where they need to be anyway. So that's one example of a city where it clearly did not work, is not working. It's still in progress. They're still working on getting more towers down. And a lot of people have these up in other towns too. Oyster Bay, New York, this is in Long Island, and Huntington, New York, are suing their city councils. There are many, many lawsuits out now about cell phone use and, the microwave radiation, brain cancer, all kinds of things. So one of the main angles to impress upon your city council is that the lawsuit pending from the telecommunications company, if you refuse, right, to put them up, is going to be far less impactful to our city than the lawsuits from the residents that are going to sue because of harm, because they will. And you don't want to use the word risks. You want to use the word harm. Okay, this is harm that will happen. And now I'm going to share with you a presentation that I just spent a lot of work putting together. Wait, hang on a second. I'm with a really great coach named Susan, and I don't know if she wants her last name said, so I'm just going to say Susan for now. And this is what I'm going to share with my city planners tomorrow. I have a meeting with them, and let's see if I can share this with bigger. I think I can.
Go to slide. Go to slideshow up at the top.
Okay. Where is it?
Slide, next to form, slide. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
thought. View presentation. No,
Present?
yeah.
Okay. You
There
see
you
it?
go. Yep.
Okay. Okay. And then I can just click this. Okay. So this is a presentation for what we want. Moms across America, we've got enough problems. We want solutions, right? So we're going to present the solution. This is the number one thing. Most people will tell you, you cannot do this because their hands are tied. We can't do this. But, we are going to ask for what we want. We're going to have a plan A. If we need to have a plan B and a plan C, we'll get to that, right? But this is what we want. We want public fiber optic cables, because that's real estate that you want your city to own. Public fiber optic cables for expanded telecommunications services. So this means any additional telecommunication services, right? So you can see this is Mission Viejo, no telephone poles. All you see is trees and lamps with the beautiful little bells on them. And then how do I get to the next? Okay. So keep our city beautiful and safe. And we have worked really hard, right, to stay beautiful. We have historical street lamps. Our streets are lined with trees. Most of our utilities are underground. And the fact is that the current above ground wireless telecommunication facilities, which we'll call WTFs, supply sufficient voice and text coverage. Here's the thing. The service that our cities are required to allow, according to the FCC guidelines, the service is for voice and text. It's not for downloading major amounts of data for virtual reality and for like movie downloads and stuff like that. It didn't exist then when they make the guidelines, so it's not included. You understand? We don't have to accept the service that is this for downloading data, which is for 5G. So I'm saying preserve our reputation. Whoops, sorry. Yeah, preserve our reputation. I've literally had taxi drivers say, oh, you live in that city with all those trees and, bells and street lamps. That's a beautiful city. You would have to put something different if you have, telephone poles all over your place. You'd just say, aesthetics. But the fact is that the reputation bears on property value and business appeal, right? If you've got these big ugly poles everywhere, people are not going to want to work outside them or near them. So these are the issues that face us with additional WTF applications in conflict with our values: aesthetics, property values, fire safety, energy consumption, data and security system safety, health of humans and endangered species and pollinators. We do not want to become this, which is Germantown. 91 locations began to be constructed practically overnight. The residents woke up and there were these concrete bases that were being installed, and they were going to put poles in them. But the citizens all went to the city council and rallied and organized, and they stopped the contract. They stopped the contract with a contractor called Crown Castle. And I believe, sorry, that might have been Huntington Beach or somewhere else. But here's the other thing, guys. They get a contractor to put in these poles, and the contractors are LLCs, limited liability corporations. So if that pole falls down or it starts a fire, that limited liability corporation is not responsible. So who's going to pay for that? Probably your city, right? Your taxpayers. So we don't want to become that or this, which is hundreds of small cell W2F poles near our homes or businesses. And even New York Times is saying, well, 5G is coming, but who decides where it goes? So my point is that we can talk all day long about 500 feet, 300 feet, 1,000 feet setbacks from residential, from schools. By the way, this just allows wherever you want it to be in commercial, right? Which is where you're working all day. You can talk about the distance all day long, but in the end, you have to answer the question, where is the pole placed? And that is going to create the problem of not in my front yard, right? So we're going to have all kinds of people saying, I don't want it in my front yard. It lowers my property house value. So we actually eliminate all of these arguments by maintaining our city's historical pattern of underground facilities. So, and underground means you're connected to fiber optics, which is an international connection, right? These above ground things, it's much spottier, right? To have international connections. So this is an international connection. It's public fiber optic cables. And you also, with fiber optic cables, you protect workers' rights. I mean, think about the car salesman that's outside 100 feet from a pole all day long, right? He's no less important than a resident who's sleeping 100 feet from the wireless telecommunications facilities. So we simply cannot, in good conscience, just shove these poles into a commercial district and let our workers be subjected to these microwave radiations all day. I can't do that. There are other people at other cities who are working right now, they could be in your city, just to say, you know what, let's keep these out of our residential areas and let's just put them in the commercial areas. Now, if you work in your city, I would be concerned about that. If you work out of your house, right, and you're in a commercial area, you work at a beauty parlor or a restaurant or a business office, I would be concerned about this. So I would speak up. The underground protects disabled people's rights. We talked about the electromagnetic sensitivity, EMS. We simply cannot accommodate their disability by allowing above ground telecommunications in any area, because doing so would restrict them from living, from going to workshops, restaurants, or their workplace, right? So we have to keep that into mind. Also, this was that slide that she added, you want to avert personal injury into sensitization. And what this means is that the Food and Drug Administration recognized that sensitization is a real problem, okay? Every central nervous system, whether in humans, animals, insects, or plants, is eminently susceptible to sensitization. Increasing the ambient microwave radiation in a city, where when multiplied by weeks, months, years, or decades, ensures ultimately that every nervous system will be injured into sensitization. Everybody, animals, plants, insects. And sensitization is basically nervous system damage that's permanent. Like this guy, if you watched on TED Talk, he was a Silicon Valley engineer. He totally loved his technology. And they installed about 12 or 20 smart meters underneath his apartment complex, and he lived right above it. And all of a sudden he got, chemical sensitivity and EMF sensitivity and all that kind of stuff that just like will not go away. He gets sick if he's someplace with microwave radiation in less than an hour. It's very serious, folks. I'm sorry to say. Underground protects birds, bees, and endangered species. And I found this lovely map that shows Southern California has like some of the worst, right? The most endangered species. And so that's a really important thing. Some people, for environmental reasons, will stop this, just for that reason, right? If you get your bee colony people out and all of that. Also, underground increases privacy and security in homes and businesses, because above ground, a hacker can see the WTF, right, on a pole outside your house, and they can hack into it. It's much easier for them to hack into it when they can see it, identify it, and then get into your internet, phone, or home security systems. Underground also prevents fires and public safety risks. Fires can cost billions of dollars, obviously, and above ground telecommunications increase fire risk. Underground telecommunications utilities avert fires. Also, we talked already about the International Firefighters Association. They declared a moratorium on WTFs on the premises. And, you know, basically if these firefighters who have the utmost need for quality call reception and responsiveness and who know fire codes thoroughly, right, refuse WTFs on their premises, then we should do likewise. Also, that we mentioned earlier, the pending FCC lawsuit results are of paramount importance. The current multiple lawsuits against the FCC may result in the allowance of a moratoria, placement constrictions, and lower limits, and a lower limit on allowable public microwave radiation exposure. So prudent city planning would include consideration of these potential rulings. This is a really good reason to delay. Really good reason. They don't want to make some ruling or, you know, make an ordinance that has a certain restriction and then, you know, 5 months from now find out that that's, you know, not legal anymore, right? So this is a really good reason. So in addition to an underground policy, we urge a stay on any further WTF applications until the FCC lawsuits are settled. You know, you can also argue that there's no urgent demand for these, right? That's part of, like, there's no reason to not delay. And also they mentioned that you know, the city needs to own the real estate of fiber optic cables. Here's some benefits. We got these from Integrated Communications online. If you just look up the benefits of fiber optics, there's some really good ones here, which I don't think I need to read. And underground public fiber optics, this is just sort of a summary of what I just said of each one of the points. So we request a tolling agreement. That's what I'm going to request, is a tolling agreement with the carrier to, you know, basically delay things, and then open up the ordinance design guidelines for clarification and allow additional telecommunication utilities underground. So we would change the ordinance to just allow future telecommunications, all of them, to be underground. And if a tolling agreement is not agreed upon, enact a real stay or a de facto stay or a moratorium until ordinance is clarified and the FCC lawsuits have been settled. So if they were to do this, this is, see, I'm creating a future that they want, right? This is saying the good news. Mission Viejo, California, voted the second or third safest city in America in the past, takes a stand for underground telecommunications and becomes the #1 safest city in America today. Or Mission Viejo, California, leads the way in public safety and telecommunication security with public fiber optics. Wouldn't that be awesome? Yay! So, and if we can do this, you know, I think it sets a precedent for other people to say, yeah, look, fiber optics is the way. It may cost a little bit more money up front, but, you know, this is what we need to do. So, let's see. So there's somebody asked, oh, and I just want to mention, we hardwired, like, so here's a little, it's just a wire. I can't, you know, it's just a wire, like you plug it in, and it has, like, you can buy this little, like, dongle thing. If I unplug this, I guess I won't have service, so I can't do it. But it's a, my husband spent less than, maybe it was about $40 for a shielded Ethernet cable, and one for the gaming console downstairs, because the boys' gaming consoles, that emits a lot of RFs, and one for his laptop, one for my laptop, and then these little dongle things, like they're shorter ones for your cell phones. Now he still has to get the boys' cell phones. They don't use them that much, but he has to get them. And it cost about $40. So it may cost maybe 50 or 60 with their phones too. But everything's rounded now, and he was able to turn off the Wi-Fi on our router. So we just used grounded cables. And I have to tell you, I'm going to sleep around 10 o'clock at night. And if my husband doesn't snore like he did last night until almost 2 in the morning, until I finally kicked him out. But if he doesn't snore, then I wake up at 6 in the morning and I feel awesome. And I've been doing a podcast. So if you guys got to check out on Spotify, my podcast is called Unstoppable with Zen Honeycutt. And thank you, Max. I could tell you listen to it, right? And yeah, thank you. And I just feel really good connecting with people in this new way. This is what I feel like one of the things I'm best at, is just talking about these issues. And so I've been getting better sleep when my husband's not snoring. If anybody has a miracle around snoring, please, I beg of you.
Divorce.
Yeah, no, I knew you would say that. The woman with 3 husbands. Oh God. But yeah, no, I have 3 boys. Right now, that is not an option. I need my husband to help out with those boys, man.
Hey, Zen, so this Ethernet cable, obviously you have to get an adapter that'll plug into your laptop, correct? Because my laptop doesn't
Yes.
have an Ethernet connection. So
Yeah, I wish I could unplug it and show it, but no, let's see. No, you can't. I can't show you right now. It's yeah. So it's an adapter. This one is called Ugreen, Ugreen, Ugreen. There's a website called Less EMF that has a lot of things like hats and aprons and all. You know, people who are EMF sensitive. There's something for a snake.
I know. Did you see my comment? Did you see my comment before? How we literally are going to be wearing tinfoil hats? The thing that
Yeah,
everybody
I saw that. Hopefully it's not going to happen. By the way, I do have to mention, I have a friend that put up the aluminum mesh screens on her walls because she measured that there was a lot of RFs coming through her bedroom walls. And she hired some day workers and they spackled over the wire mesh screen and then painted it so it looks like it's not even there, right? However, when you do that, you create a hot box if you do that on all 4 walls. So if you do that into your bedroom, you cannot use your cell phone in there at all. Like you cannot bring your laptop, otherwise it's just gonna bounce off the walls, right? And you're gonna cook it's like gonna cook you, So, I mean, not cook you, but it's gonna be higher EMFs than what you need. So, oh, and yes, so we did test with the little this little thingy, sorry, this little guy, and the levels are down. Yeah. Yes, Max, you want to say something? Hang on, let me unmute you. Oh, go ahead.
As far as the cell phones in the bedroom, with the walls all wired in, cell phone won't work because you won't get a signal.
Well, okay, maybe not, but somebody told me if you use a cell phone in there, then the wave, it's just going to bounce all over and it's like
It'll bounce all over, but it won't be able to get out to get a signal.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it won't work. Okay, good. So then you can't use it in there. That would be great. My EMF sensor is meter K, but I can't say to recommend it. I'm not sure because there might be some that are more sensitive or not. There are some meters that are like $400. I'm sure we did not pay $400 for this. I'm sure it was like $30 or something. So what do you have, Max? What's it called?
He's muted.
You're muted, Max. I got oh, you got it?
A tri-field EMF meter, model TF2. It measures magnetic, electrical, and radio frequency.
That was really highly recommended by another guy I was just reading about. It's listed, it's $168 on Amazon. I'm looking at it right now.
Chloe, you have it too, right? Is that the same one? I can't unmute you though, Chloe. It looks like the same one. Okay. Tri-field. Yep.
Yeah, there are others with different ranges and for different purposes, but for
hang on, wait, stay right there, Chloe.
A good one.
There we go. Tri-field model TF2 EMF meter. There you go.
That's it.
Okay, great. Very good.
As I said, it's on Amazon and it's $168.
Okay, great. So, all right. So you guys like my presentation?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. We're working my butt off. Oh, I want to share something else. So once you start getting, organized, right, and you start a 5G, Stop 5G page, you want to create flyers that are specific to your area. So once you ask, because people need visuals, right? This is my city, and all those little yellow dots are where the proposed 15 WTFs are proposed, right? There's 2 more that they have applications out. So you want to create a flyer with the image of your city proposed locations, right? And if you don't have that, you want to at least include this picture, which is from Germantown, Maryland, where the 71 towers went up, right? And that, like, this is what could happen. And so this flyer is on Stop 5G Mission Viejo or Stop 5G Orange County, and you can just screenshot that image, right, of Germantown, and you can plop it into your flyer. And you get this image from your city planning, your planning commissioners. You email them and you ask them, can I please have the addresses and map of any proposed locations for wireless telecom facilities, right? And then you can get that image and you can use it. And you can use an example from off of 5G Crisis. They have a letter. That's how I got started. I just downloaded the page from 5gcrisis.com. It's a letter to your neighbor. And I added in on the bottom, like, you know, please come to our meeting on, back then it was February 10th. But I clearly didn't pass out enough of them because I only had 7 people at our first meeting. Our second meeting is March 9th, and I hope to pack it. I've printed out 100 of these. I don't know if it cost maybe $20 or something. And this past weekend, I just printed out from my printer, which works way faster now that it's hardwired. It just prints right away. I don't have to wait. And so it's much faster. And I printed out maybe 60 this past weekend. And we went to each one of these locations. There were two other volunteers and myself. And we divided them up. We took 4 each. I took a few more because they were business district. And you guys, this really makes me mad. This area down here where there's a whole bunch of them, that's all low income. It's business and it's low income Hispanic people. And it really pissed me off that they had towers like right around their whole complex. And I kept thinking, wait a second, I must have messed up because I'm just driving right back into the same complex for the next address. And one was just at one end and the other was at another end. And I was mad. And I was trying to find somebody that could speak, you know, English well enough. And I asked somebody to take a picture of this image. This is our meeting that we're having next tomorrow night up here in Laguna Beach. And Children's Health Defense Lawyer, Daphna, is going to be running this event. And the Children's Health Defense Lawyer, Children's Health Defense has sued. They've sued the FCC. So I'm really excited. She's going to come with me to my meeting. And, you know, so this can happen. Once you start getting involved, you just start asking questions and, you know, getting people to come with you. And, yeah, so Caitlin, the proposed wireless telecommunications facilities, that is the right word. Yes. You might want to say the current or proposed, right? Because there might be some set up already. I noticed one, it's in Laguna Hills, but it's right on the edge of my town. There's already one up. So that's the correct verbiage. And you want to ask for a map as well. They may not have to supply it. Like, and I asked for the addresses for these 15 proposed, and they would not give them to me because they don't have applications for them. But they do have numbers. They have like MSV 016. So they're logged somewhere, right? They're assigned numbers, they're specific addresses, but the city said they don't have them and the actual applicant would not give them to me. So you know what I did? Because I'm unstoppable, right? I will not be stopped. I just Googled zoomed in on Google Earth and found the cross streets from the estimated location, because the picture that they gave me is much bigger than this, right? And I found the approximate locations and I went out there anyway. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, I put them all down on a spreadsheet like this, right, with the numbers of each location and the directions, and I gave that to the. I also printed out a picture of this is what the pole is going to look like, folks. You know, so people can see this is what we're looking at, big ugly pole, and I had some backup talking points. Which 5G Crisis has. They have a great sheet for talking points. So Jenny's saying, do you suggest city of county? It probably depends on, or city or county. Yes, it depends on the population. So if you have a massive city, I would just do your city. If you have a small city and you want to do county, I did both because it really is good for the people in Costa Mesa to know what the people in Laguna Beach are doing and Orange County, you know, and Irvine and Ladera, like it's really good for us to know what's going on because we all live near each other. And once these telecom companies get into one city in a county, they're going to think, well, we can go ahead and get into the other city, you know, in a county. So it is good to have both. And they did suggest go ahead and start a, you know, maybe somebody else can do this if you buddy up with somebody else, but start a Citizens for Safe technology one too, so that you're not just stop 5G, right? And I also started, because, you know, I'm a over ambitious person. I started Unstoppable Moms of Mission Viejo. And we have, I'm going to show you because I think it's just really cute. Although I don't know if I have that up now. We have a, yeah, I'll pull it up right now. We have a really cute image that we can send to you if you want it. And what we might ask you to do down the road though, is to be like to have this group start a sort of chapter or a cooperative in your area, because we need to work together, folks. And this Stop 5G thing is a perfect reason to start working together. Okay, so I'm going to screen share. Show you this. It's really cute what Ann did. Isn't this cute? Bringing health advocates to the table. So it's like an activist potluck party. Some of you have been to my party where we've had an activist potluck party. So you got toxin-free, EMF-free, GMO-free, health solutions, health freedom, right? Like we're gonna bring people together who wanna talk about all these different health issues that are affecting our community locally. And this is because I was in the moms group for years. But when the GMO thing came around and I wanted to tell them about the GMO labeling initiative, they're like, no, that's political. You can't talk about that. I was like, but it's about school lunches. And they're like, no, you can't talk about that. So nothing political can be discussed at the International Moms Club meetings. I love them, but I'm not down with that. Like, we need to support each other. We need to be able to tell each other what's going on in our freaking city council or our school board or our county supervisors. You know, there's county supervisors that get elected and they have the power to like decide whether or not your whole entire city is sprayed with or pesticides, right? Like they work with the vector control people. So we need to know locally what's going on. And so that's why I want to start groups that bring together local health advocates and, you know, coordinate and all that kind of stuff. So just an idea, if you want to get this image, just email me at info@momsacrossamerica.org, or if you want to just steal it off of here, I suppose you can, but we really want you to email us so that you can give us the link to your page. And eventually we can, you know, maybe like in 6 months, we'll ask everybody to tell us how many people are in your group. So that then when we go to our city councils and our commissioners, we can say, I'm a member of Moms Across America, and we represent 500,000 active members across the country, right? Or 2 million or whatever it is. So if we can all get like 1,000 people on these groups and we add it, you know, we add this all up, we could, you know, get 500 groups or something going, then we can really say that we are a strong force to be reckoned with. And that's the thing, we need numbers, right? So I wrote to you to see if you could connect with Carolyn from Stop 5G Florida. She's also with GMO Free Florida. Yes, I would love to connect with her. I might have already connected with her, I'm not sure. Yes, live stream and or record meetings whenever possible and share with your group encourages more involvement. Yes, for some reason, my city council did not have a live stream, like a video of it. I think it was just a recording. So so you may want to have somebody there who just sits there who's like, oh, I don't want to talk, but say, okay, great, then can you hold my phone and record, you know, put them to work. So also people who may not want to talk, they could be good people to stand out front at the door early, you know, beforehand, and stay a little bit late, you know, before the meeting starts, and give talking points to people. So if you have talking points like this, you want to flesh them out. You want to have some that are just like this, because you want to say, look, if you're going to speak tonight, we really encourage you to check off a talking point after somebody says it, and then don't repeat it, right? We don't want to be repetitive. At one of the last meetings I went to, there were 3 people that talked about the fact that they wanted a longer notification or an earlier notification. They didn't want to be notified that a pole was going to come up, be put up outside their home, you know, in only 2 weeks or only within 100 feet of the pole. They wanted a 500 feet notification area with like 1 month or something. But there were 3 people who said the same thing. And there were only about 7 of us who spoke. So, you know, or 10 of us, I forgot what, this was the Costa Mesa meeting. So we want to make sure to organize as much as possible. And so that means somebody on the outside of the door before people coming in, because there's going to be people that you don't know, right? That are going to show up. They're going to learn about this on Facebook. You don't know who they are. So you want to have some type of talking point thing. And I'll upload ours too on our website under action and EMFs or EMF actions. And also on Stop 5G Mission Viejo and Stop 5G Orange County, but 5G Crisis also has a talking point thing. So you can download it and just when people come and give them a copy and say, when you see somebody else say the talking point, please check it off and address a different talking point when you get up. Now, the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have at least these 10 points and I'm gonna flush out 3 minutes each. So I'm gonna have a whole you know, this number 1 talking point, I'm gonna have a whole page just for that. And I'm getting help on this, right? And don't get overwhelmed, okay? I'm a full-time activist. This is my job. But I don't want you to feel like you have to do everything I'm doing. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna share this with you. So all you're gonna need to do is print it out, okay? And there's other people that have already done what I've done. So I just need to gather what they've done and share it, right? I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel here. So I will have 10 points, 3 minutes each, where you can just print those pages out, get 10 people to say the 10 strongest legal points, not just like, I don't feel good, you know, I don't want this. It's like legal points. And you will be able to print those out. And as long as you have those 10 points covered, you may, you know, be able to do a really good job. You may be able to actually like, you know, win and stuff like this. Yes, this will be available for replay. I will put it up on momsacrossamerica.org. And I don't know what section it's under. I don't know if it's under about or under data. It's under one of those and it'll say Moms Connect calls. Yeah, so you'll be able to watch this again. And then also on my podcast, I'm going to be continually mentioning these points and stuff, but that's only 30 minutes. So what about your schools? Well, you want to, so first of all, we don't want these anywhere, okay? So I want everybody to push for fiber optics. I really want you to not cave right away and make compromises and just say, okay, well, let's just push for, you know, 100 feet setbacks or 500 feet setbacks or 1,000 foot setback. No, I'm not criticizing the people who have done this already, but we need some cities to at least stand up and say, no, we don't want these at all, right? We do not want these at all. We have to have some cities who stand up to them and say, we don't want these at all. We are willing to get sued. And we're going to go for this. Because guess what happens in the discovery process? All their dirty laundry will come out. So I don't think they really are going to want to sue us that much. I think they're going to try to move on to a different city. But, you know, if enough cities say, we don't want this at all, and you're going to have to sue us in order to force it to, you know, to happen, I think they might say, you know what, fiber optics might be less expensive. Because look at the lawsuits. You know, how much are, you know, would Monsanto got sued hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So it can cost a lot of money for these lawsuits. And we need cities that stand up and say, you know, say no.
Frankie's saying, how compatible are fiber optic cables with trees in winter freeze? I mean, they've as Zen stated before, they're under the ocean. They've laid
Yes.
these cables. They're already, the infrastructure's in place somewhat.
And they're underground, and you already have a lot of these cables underground. They just don't want to use them. They just think that it's, you know, it's more expensive to send a crew out and, you know, dig a ditch and put that into your home, right? If it's a brand new home. So what do we suggest for really rural areas? People in really rural areas of this country have been begging for internet. Well, so here's the thing. They can have 4G and it will go for miles, right? And they just place it you know, I mean, that's the whole not my front yard thing. They could place a, you know, above ground antenna, and it would be miles away and that would be okay. But fiber optic cables are going to be, you know, if the power goes out, the fiber optic cables are still going to work. There's still a far better option. And I don't know what else. Landlines, phone, hardwire to, you know, to the landlines.
Well, they had DSL. So what happened to DSL?
I would imagine they still probably have that. It's just not as fast. I mean, gosh, guys, do you want cancer or do you need to be able to scroll all day long? You know, do you need to be, I mean, since we've hardwired here, I'm reading more. I'm going to bed earlier. I'm talking with my kids more. I'm not on my stupid phone. You know, I'm working less, but yeah, sometimes you need to work less. You know, sometimes you need to, although I'm not working less, I'm working my ass off on this, but I'm not letting, you know, like my work on my phone interrupt like a little bit of movie time with my kids or, you know, gardening time or whatever. I'm not getting as distracted, right, by my phone, because I'm like letting my phone live on my office desk. I'm not carrying it around with me everywhere. And my laptop stays on my office desk. I used to like work in bed with, you know, Wi-Fi and radio, like all the time, you know, it was like, and then I would just put it by my bed and I would charge my phone at night by my head, even though the phone was off. You're still getting 3,000 micro whatever Gauss of EMFs while you're sleeping. No wonder why I was having trouble sleeping and had anxiety. No wonder, you know? So, yeah, Tornado Alley would benefit from underground cables for sure. Absolutely, these underground cables. And, you know, and it creates jobs. You know, people need jobs too. So, you know, put these teenagers to work that are out there vaping and causing trouble. So let's take some ditches, right? So, or we should go at 6:18.
Well, wait, before we go, this is completely off the subject, but I went and saw, and I suggest everybody go see it. I went and saw Fantastic Fungi.
Oh, yes, great.
And it was fabulous.
Fantastic Fungi. It is, it's a beautiful, riveting movie. Like if you liked, what was it called? Big Farm, Little Farm, something like that.
Yeah, The Biggest Little Farm.
Biggest Little Farm. You will love Fantastic Fungi. Yeah, it was really, really great. And what else? There was some other news I wanted to say. Oh, Connecticut. By the way, I want to say shout out to Connecticut people, Health Freedom. 22 hours these people camped out overnight to testify. I don't know how many, I think it was 4,000 people were there. And like my heart breaks for them because they passed it through either the Senate and now it has to go to the House, or it passed through the House and now it has to go to the Senate. Virginia's tomorrow. I mean, send some love to these people that are doing this. People are rallying together. And what I want to say about this is no matter what happens, like this is showing us, 600 people testified in Connecticut. Thank you for 22 hours. We have got to get organized. We cannot just show up with thousands of people at these events and not get each other's emails. It should be a requirement that every single person signs in and we get our emails and we get our phone numbers and we get like our, you know, the areas where we live so that we can have hubs of people get together. That's why we're trying to start these, you know, Unstoppable Moms of Mission Viejo groups or Stop 5G groups. We need to use social media and these gatherings where we're getting together to create local cooperatives, or if you want to call them chapters. I like calling them cooperatives because we're all working together, right? And we are working together and we're going to bring in other groups. We're going to bring in like Slow Food or you know, Friends of the Earth, or, you know, other groups, you know, health freedom groups. And we're going to have these speakers come. Like this is the future that I would envision for all of us, is that we all have local moms groups or, you know, activist groups, conservation groups, yeah, whatever you want to call them, where we support each other about the local, you know, health issues and environmental issues. And there are plenty of people, right? Yeah, that do not use Facebook. So you can do, if you don't do Instagram, you can still use meetup.com. You can also use Nextdoor, but you have to be very careful on Nextdoor. It cannot look like you're on your soapbox. They will delete it. So like you may want to say, instead of like, guys, we have to stop 5G in our neighborhood, you may just want to post, for those who are interested, there is a city council meeting, you know, on March 9th at 6:30, which is going to be addressing 5G. If you want to learn more, please come, right? Like, so you're not saying whether you're for or against, you're just informing people that there's a meeting. So again, you need to be careful about, you know, your wording, but we need to, you know, and then if you want to do something in person, just put a sign up at your library or a local coffee group. Are you interested in getting together to talk about local, you know, issues such as, you know, 5G or GMOs or health freedom or, you know, whatever that is, and get together, because when the power goes out, because it probably will, right, whether it's for fires or earthquakes or climate crisis or whatever happens, we will not have our social media groups. We'll only have our local neighbors, right? It could be for a very long period of time. So we really need to get to know our neighbors. We need to grow food locally. We need to, you know, have some preparation and some local, you know, connections of people that will connect and support each other. So that's really important. And if we do this, we can work together and we can do things like stop 5G from coming in and elect people who will actually work for us, right? And we can turn things around. Like we could actually elect people into office that will put policies into place that will protect us, right? But we have to organize locally in order to do this, right? So I really urge you to start a group today. Whether you feel more inclined to start a Stop 5G group or a Citizens for Safe Technology group or an Unstoppable Moms, you know, of your city group, and you want it to be sort of more broad and open, either way, I urge you to start it right away and get a buddy to admin on there and start posting. You can share the post from Moms Across America or from, you know, my groups or there's lots of other groups out there, 5gcrisis.com.
Yeah, also, I mean, look and see if there's already a group in place. I mean, for me.
Yes, look first. Yeah, look first and see if there is one.
There's a fabulous group here called Wisconsin for Safe Technology.
Great. Yeah, so you don't need to start one. You just join there and you ask them, have you guys found out about the ordinances? What's the deal? What can I do? You know, you want me to show up? Do you want me to sign a petition? Just get involved and get people's phone numbers locally and use those big events like the Stop 5G International. There's going to be another one. I think it's the weekend of Earth Day. Like, April 25th, there's going to be another Stop 5G International March. And I talked to the organizer and I said, listen, I'm only going to support this if we use these events to get organized. Like, I'm so not about just showing up somewhere and being angry. It's not useful anymore. It's useful to get together. But here's what we need to do at these events. So if you're part of one of these events, you need to get a microphone and stand up on a picnic table and say, okay, everybody from zip code 92619, go over here. Everybody from zip code 92, whatever, you know, like separate out by zip codes or by areas of town, north, south, east, west of the town. Get together and we're going to organize, or by city, I don't know if it's a county thing, right? We're going to get together and here's clipboards. Everybody's going to sign up for email and phone numbers so that we can text each other or WhatsApp each other or email each other. And we are going to organize. The next meeting is going to be 2 weeks from now. We are all going to meet and we're going to, you know, you decide which location in your area, but we're going to meet and we are going to organize and we're going to go to our city councils or we're going to go to our representatives or our school board, whatever that is. And you're going to use those large events to organize. This is like our opposition's worst nightmare. They do not want us to organize, right? That's what we need to do. So, all right, it's 6:24. Does anybody have any other like urgent questions before we sign off? No? I really appreciate you being on, everybody. This is like not an easy subject. And thank you for saying it was fun. That's so great. Oh my gosh, this is such a challenging subject, but thank you for saying it was fun. I appreciate it. Yeah, and check out my podcast. And by the way, anybody can do a podcast. I'm doing it for free on Anchor. You don't have to have a lot of money to do what we're doing. So keep going. And I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.